Welcome to State of the Offense, your unbiased coverage of your favorite team's offense, the Pittsburgh Steelers. At this point of the offseason, many players and their situations are unknowns and unproven throughout the NFL. But overall, I believe that the Steelers should be concerned with the offense going into the 2023 season, but they should also be optimistic about the upside of their offense. Last year, the Steelers finished 23rd in offense in the NFL, 24th in passing, 16th in rushing, and 26th in scoring, which earned them a 9-8 record. In the skill positions, the Steelers returned Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth as the top fantasy options at each position from last season. Most fantasy football shows will only mention skill players, but at State of the Offense, we look at the entire offensive unit. We start in the trenches by analyzing the condition of the offensive line first. It all starts at the snap of the football. On the offensive line, the Steelers will bring back their entire starting unit from last year. Left tackle Dan Moore, left guard Kevin Dotson, center Mason Cole, right guard James Daniels, and right tackle Chukwuma Okorafor will be returning. Now, the Steelers did add two significant additions to the offensive line group this offseason. They signed guard Isaac Seumalo from the Philadelphia Eagles, and they also moved up in the draft to pick number 14 to draft Broderick Jones from the Georgia Bulldogs. At left tackle, the Steelers returned Dan Moore, who graded out at a 73 while playing 100% of the snaps last year. Moore was the 30th rated left tackle in the NFL. So the Steelers took a chance and they traded up to the 14th pick in the draft to select Broderick Jones to become the eventual franchise left tackle. I project Jones to eventually start, and I believe that he can be a slight upgrade over Moore as a rookie. Based on the grades of the first-round rookie tackles from 2022, it is safe to expect about a 75 grade from Jones this year. At left guard, the Steelers also returned an established starter with Kevin Dotson, but they also brought in former Philadelphia Eagle Isaac Seumalo in free agency. Kevin Dotson played 100% of the snaps for the Steelers and graded out as a 76. Seumalo had a 96% snap share and graded out at an 80 last year in Philly. The Steelers also gave Seumalo almost $7 million guaranteed. Dotson's contract ends after this season. Mason Cole will return for his second season in Pittsburgh. In his Steelers debut, he graded out as a 70, which rates him as the number 24 center in the league. He played 96% of the snaps in 2022. If Cole has a subpar 2023, his dead cap number in 2024 is pretty low, so this may be a prove-it year for Cole in Pittsburgh. James Daniels is the projected starter at right guard going into training camp. Daniels also played 100% of the snaps last season, and he was the highest rated starter for Pittsburgh with a score of 79. Daniels was rated as the number 13 right guard in the NFL last season. Chukwuma Okorafor is back in 2023 at right tackle after also playing 100% of the snaps. Last season, he earned a 71 grade, which ranked him 20th right tackles in the NFL. He is the highest paid lineman going into this season for the Steelers. His dead cap number drops from $10 million to only $3 million if he has a bad year after this season, or if the Steelers decide that Dan Moore and Broderick Jones are their starting tackles of the future. The commitment to the offensive line by the Steelers in the offseason shows that they are serious about giving Kenny Pickett time in the pocket and Najee Harris a chance to average better than the 3.8 yards a carry like he had last year. The addition of Darnell Washington as a blocking tight end in the draft will also pay dividends, as the Steelers will try to develop their identity as a tough physical group to support their outstanding defense and young quarterback. Kenny Pickett, like most rookie quarterbacks, provided mixed results. He has nice pocket awareness and mobility, but his yards per attempt at 6.2 and his 7-9 touchdown interception ratio have to improve drastically in a stacked AFC North. As a fantasy player, I would not draft Pickett in a one-year league for 2023. In a keeper or dynasty league, his long-term value is between C.J. Stroud and Will Levis, and lower than Anthony Richardson and Bryce Young. If the offensive line and the supporting cast play up to their talent, Pickett can emerge as a quarterback too in fantasy. But don't rush to get him if you want to seriously win fantasy money this winter. Part of the reason to be optimistic about Pickett and the Steelers' offense, though, in the long term, is due to the talent around him. Diontae Johnson is one of the most targeted players in the NFL. 147 targets should indicate a bounce-back year for Diontae in 2023. His 25.7% target rate was the 9th best rate in the NFL for wide receivers. Some people will devalue Diontae for not scoring any touchdowns last year. Right now, he's the number 26 drafted wide receiver on ESPN.com. If you think Kenny Pickett gets better in year 2, then you have to like Johnson this year. George Pickens is a pretty popular fellow in the fantasy football world right now as well. He is currently the 40th wide receiver taken on ESPN.com. That may be a little rich for me personally, because I would not rule out the possibility of Allen Robinson being an option in the offense this year. One question that I would like all Steeler fans to consider is that if George Pickens is a high-level number 2 wide receiver, which is what the number 40 wide receiver in the NFL is, then why did the Steelers see the need to trade for Allen Robinson this offseason? With the 24th ranked passing game last year, how much production can you count on knowing that Pickett has to be able to support Diontae, Pickens, Robinson, and Pat Freiermuth? Even if the Steelers move up to the level that was equivalent to the number 16 passing offense in the league last year, which would be average, that only means that the Steelers would throw for 16 and a half more passing yards per game than last year. And speaking of those weapons, Pat Freiermuth has had as good a 2-year start as any tight end has ever had in fantasy football. Among tight ends, Pat Freiermuth had the 6th highest target percentage amongst tight ends. Diontae Johnson was the 9th highest targeted wide receiver in 2022. Please do not overvalue Pickens going into the season, because Diontae and Freiermuth will both eat before Pickens does. Pickens had a 14.7 target rate last year. Will Kenny Pickett all of a sudden be able to create fantasy points for 4 guys on a team with Najee Harris also in this offense? Remember, the Steelers ran for the 10th highest rate in the NFL in 2022. Speaking of Najee, I love his situation coming into this season. His foot problem in camp was a real thing. Before the bye, Najee averaged 8 fantasy points in points per reception formats. After the bye, he averaged 13.2 fantasy points in PPR. The offensive line will be better, TJ Watt will be healthy, and the defense will be better. Najee will get more chances to produce, and I believe that he has a strong year ahead. Once the Bijans and Taylors and McCaffreys are gone, you can start considering Najee as a running back 1 option in fantasy. Most people rate Travis Etienne of Jacksonville ahead of Najee. I don't, because Etienne has got more competition in Jacksonville. If you're worried about Jaylen Warren in a year where Najee had a foot injury, Najee still outcarried Jaylen Warren 272 to 77. Also remember that Najee was a first-round draft pick in 2021. Jaylen Warren was undrafted in 2022. You should be very confident in Najee Harris going into this season. The biggest problem with Pittsburgh is that they have a young offense, and the AFC North is brutal. I believe in them a lot more in 2024 than I do in 2023, because I think Kenny Pickett will be a lot better than he is now. If the offensive line continues to improve, the defense plays like a normal Pittsburgh Steelers defense, good times are ahead. From a fantasy football perspective, take advantage of people sleeping on Diontae Johnson and Najee Harris. Pat Freiermuth is an excellent tight end, and only go after Pickett and Pickens if you're needing backup fantasy quarterback or a wide receiver late in the draft. From an organizational perspective, few teams have the record to compare with the Steelers. Their stability and depth outside the quarterback position is as good as any in the league. A breakout season from Kenny Pickett is all the Steelers need to compete in the best division in the NFL, the AFC North. If you like today's coverage of the Steelers offense, please hit the like and subscribe buttons to support the channel.